Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shio and today I wanted to do a little predictions video for Pokemon Legends ZA. Obviously this game is like super far in advance and we have next to no information about it, but I think that's what makes making predictions this early so fun. Basically I have written a list of 10 predictions, half of which are like actual predictions and the other half is just things that I hope will be in the game. And I wanted to make this video so that when the game actually does come out, I can look back on it and then we can see together how much I actually got right. My very ambitious goal is to get 5 out of 10 of these right, a solid 50%. With that in mind, let's just get straight into it. My very first prediction might be a little controversial right off the bat, but it is that this game will not be like Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think a very natural thing to assume about the Legends moniker is that it's going to be a consistent series where all of the games have the same general mechanics and core gameplay. I think it's possible that the games that have been branded the Legends games will instead be a highly experimental series of Pokemon games, each of which having a different niche and a different thing that they focus on. For example, I think that ZA is going to be a little bit more of like a base builder city sim sort of game where you employ Pokemon to help you build up Lumiose City. That being said, my second point is that some aspects of Pokemon Legends Arceus will be reintegrated into ZA. One of those things that I definitely think is going to be reintegrated is the Ancestors/Descendants gimmick. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, many of the characters were ancestors of those seen in the Sinnoh games. This was a really genius move on Pokemon's part, both from a storytelling perspective, but also from like a branding and marketing perspective. People went absolutely crazy for these ancestor characters. They loved that they were ancestors of their favorite characters from Diamond and Pearl, and I definitely think that Pokemon is not going to let that chance up. Arceus characters like Volo are still some of the most popular Pokemon characters these days, and I still see fan art of them every single day. One of the fan favorite characters from X and Y is of course Sycamore, the professor. He's very, very good looking because these games are all about the theme of beauty, and I definitely think that we're going to get Sycamore descendant/ancestor, depending on if the game is in the past or the future, who's also going to be a very attractive professorial lady. I also am willing to bet that we're going to get a Clement relative who is instrumental to developing or redeveloping Lumiose. Clement being, of course, the electric type gym leader whose gym is literally in the Prism Tower in Lumiose City. My third point is again kind of talking about what I was talking about in my first point about the Legends games not being super consistent. And that is that I think this game will actually have no time travel shenanigans. Unlike Legends Arceus, where characters were pulled backwards in time from the quote-unquote present, whatever that means in the Pokemon universe, I don't think that this game will be a time travel isekai sort of story. I think all of the characters, including the protagonist, will be native to the time that ZA takes place in. Moving gears a little bit, I do think that ZA is going to be a Switch 2 quote-unquote launch title. We've gotten a lot of rumors about the Switch 2 recently, including some rumors that its release date has been pushed back from 2024 into 2025. I think this could make sense in terms of ZA, maybe planning on being the 2024 big Pokemon game, but instead it got moved back alongside the Switch 2, which is why we're not getting a Pokemon game in 2024. I do want to make it clear though that I think that this is a good thing. I think that not having a Pokemon game come out this year is good, it'll give them more development time, and I really hope that that time will be well used by Game Freak to make a really polished, or hopefully just more polished, Pokemon game. My fifth point is a little bit of hope and a little bit of prediction, but it is that there will be more new Pokemon than there were in Legends Arceus. Arceus did have its fair share of brand new Pokemon, many of which were evolutions or regional forms to existing Pokemon. But as many of us know, Gen 6 X and Y had the smallest roster of new Pokemon when it originally came out, and I think that this would be a pretty good opportunity for the Pokemon Company to fill in that roster. Basically, I think there's a pretty good chance that we're going to get new Kalos native Pokemon, and we're going to get enough of them to sort of even out the Kalos roster with the rest of the generations. So instead of focusing on things like regional forms or new evolutions, we're actually going to get a lot of new, completely original Pokemon. My point number 6 is a prediction that is made about pretty much every single new Pokemon game, be it a new mainline game, a remake, or a spin-off, but that is that there will be a new evolution. I know, every single time that someone says this, we are wrong. Here's the thing, the community just really wants new evolutions, myself certainly included, and we haven't gotten one, coincidentally, since X and Y. Sylveon was released as a new evolution because of the new fairy type, and it is also one of the most popular evolutions to date. Personally, I think that considering there won't be a Pokemon game in 2024, the Pokemon Company is going to advertise and push this game as much as they can to quote-unquote make up for lost time, aka make as much money as they can from it, and I honestly think that adding in a new evolution, a really good one at that, is phenomenal marketing on their part. If I was a Pokemon executive and I wanted as many people to play my new game as possible, I would definitely add probably one of the #1 most wanted things in Pokemon, aside from like, you know, more polished games and stuff, but like a really specific, easily achievable thing is just adding a new evolution. I truly don't really understand why they haven't done it yet, but I think that this is a good opportunity for them to do so, considering we're going back to Kalos, where the last evolution was introduced, and also it just being a really good opportunity to market and push this game. My personal bet, if we do get a new evolution, is that it will be either Steel or Dragon type, and this is because it will be a sort of pairing to Sylveon. I think that if it is a Steel type, it will be called Smelteon, and if it is a Dragon type, it'll be called Hordeon. But that's definitely not going to be true. But if I do get any of that true, new evolution, the typings, or the names right, I get massive bonus points. Just saying. For my 7th point, I think that Zygarde will get a new form other than the 3 existing ones that we already have. Some people might say this is totally unnecessary, Zygarde already has a ton of forms, and I want to be clear that I am not talking about a Mega Evolution. I do think it's probably going to get a Mega Evolution. I'm specifically talking about a new form, a new easily marketable form. We've seen all of the other Zygarde forms a lot, but if they really want to push Zygarde as like a big deal, a big new thing, they've got to make it a little fresher, and I think that we are going to get a new Zygarde. I don't know exactly what this redesign will be like. I do think it is possible that we get a design based off of Jormungandr, the World Serpent, considering the Norse mythology influences in the original X and Y, and it is possible that we get a sort of Ouroboros type design from it. Okay, for point number 8, I have an incredible shot in the dark. Honestly, this is really indulgent of me because I absolutely love Sun and Moon, but I think that there's going to be a surprising amount of Alola references in these games. We saw the continuation of Zygarde that should have been in Pokemon Z in Sun and Moon. We collected cells of Zygarde that were, for some reason, all in Alola, and we even saw characters like Sinnoh and Dexio related to that whole thing in Alola as well. I would love an explanation as to why Zygarde cells were in Alola, a little bit more in depth, but also if Legends Arceus is anything to go by, this is not exactly off the table. In Legends Arceus, we got a new Forces of Nature Pokemon alongside Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, named obviously Enamorus, that has an incarnate and Etherian form, and all of these Pokemon are from Gen 5. And honestly, it's pretty strange that we get an addition to this trio of legendaries from a completely different generation in a game, Legends Arceus, that's based off of an entirely different region. But knowing that that's something that Nintendo are not afraid to do, I think it's very possible that we get some Alola stuff. One thing that I would love to see is a new Tapu, maybe a Fire Fairy Tapu. We don't have any Fire Fairy types currently, so I think that would be a great way to introduce one. And one thing that I would really like to see in addition to that is more Ultra Beast related lore. I'd love to see the Ultra Beasts in this game. Ultra Beasts alongside the X and Y legendaries are some of the only legendaries to not be included in Scarlet and Violet in its DLCs, and people think that that is a hint that they might be in ZA. My 9th point is in regards to the art style of these games. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this, but I've been wondering a lot about what art style these games are going to go for. Are they going to keep in line with the previous Arceus title, the more cel-shaded cartoony look that was very much taken from Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon? Or is it going to fall more in line with Scarlet and Violet's slightly more realistic style? Or even if it's going to do something completely different, is it going to try and modernize the X and Y style? Is it going to do the Let's Go art style? Who knows? As much as I wish that it used a more modernized and more refined version of the Pokemon Legends Arceus art style, because I do think that that is the best 3D Pokemon style personally, if it was just, invested in a little more. I do think that these games are actually going to use the Scarlet and Violet art style, including the same character models and character customization system that we see in that game. And I think that this is a good opportunity for them to take that style and improve upon it. So I hope that there is much, much better terrain and environmental art design than there was in Scarlet and Violet, because even though the character models themselves I was kind of fine with, again, I don't like them as much as the Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon style, but I think they're fine. The one thing that really, really fell apart in Scarlet and Violet was the environment design. It's absolutely god-awful. I'm sorry if you like it, but I think it's terrible, both in the cities and in the wilderness, and it really, really, really needs an improvement if they are going to continue with it. And finally, point number 10. This is a topic that I see being talked about a lot right now, and I think it's a very fun topic to discuss, which is who are the starters going to be in this game? Again, I'm not personally married to the idea that this game is going to take all of the same cues from Pokemon Legends Arceus, but one thing that I definitely see it doing is doing its starters the same way that that game did. The current favorites for who the starters are going to be on the internet seems to be Snivy, Piplup, and Torchic. Reasons for this being that Snivy's final evolution Superior has a fleur-de-lis aesthetic going on. Piplup's final evolution Empoleon is based off of Napoleon. I think that this one is almost a guarantee personally. And finally, Torchic is based off of a chick, which is the national animal of France, or I believe the rooster is. There's a little bit of contention with that last one though, because Blaziken did already get a Mega Evolution, and people think that the starters of this game will not necessarily have a new third evolution, but rather a new Mega Evolution. While I do think that it is possible that Blaziken will simply get a new Mega Evolution, I also think it's possible that we get a different fire starter completely. I personally agree with Snivy and Piplup, and I especially hope that it is Snivy, because Snivy is like my favorite Pokemon ever, fun fact. But I think that there's a slightly higher chance of the fire starter being Scorbunny because of the soccer theming than Torchic because it already has a Mega. But yeah, that is about it for my 10 predictions / things that I hope for in these games. I'd love to hear what your predictions are. The more out there and wild, the better. As you can tell, some of mine were very unlikely, but I think that's kind of the fun of making predictions this early on. If you agree or disagree or want to add anything to any of my points, please do let me know in the comments, because I really want to have a conversation about this, because again, I think it's fun. That being said, I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video. This was really fun to make, and I hope that it was fun to watch. If you enjoyed it, please stick around by hitting the subscribe button, and let me know that you liked the video by hitting the like button. It really motivates me to make more videos in general, but also tells me which videos people want to see more of. I am hopefully going to be playing Pokemon Legends Arceus on the channel in a few months, so if you want to see that, please stick around. But other than that, I think that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see all of you next time. Later! Is phenomenal.